Hello, everybody, and welcome to an emergency hash rate. We're doing a special today all on virtuals and AI 16Z, and all the agentic AI meets crypto stuff. And with me to help understand it and break it down is my good friend, Mr. Justin Bibas. Hello, Justin.
Hello. Glad to be here.
So anyway, I did a post last night, and I've been sort of digging around this whole agentic AI thing. And watching it kind of blow up on crypto with virtuals and AI 16Z. And I did a deep dive trying to make sense of what I was seeing. And I did a couple of posts that kind of blew up. So I wanted to sort of capture what we think we know about this space so far in a hash rate episode. So let's just start off with virtuals. When I first looked at it, I'm like, oh my God, they've got like this really great, front door into their universe, which BitTensor and Tau is kind of lacking, which I scream about that all the time. But why don't you tell us in your own words, what is virtuals?
Sure. So virtuals is many things, but right now its largest and most popular use case is as a launch pad for meme coins. And these meme coins they're pitching will evolve over time into AI agents with more functionality. So you can think of it like pump.fun, but the graduation is coupled not only with a change in liquidity conditions, but also a change in the actual functionality and utility of the token being, maybe not utility, but you now have exposure to an AI agent, and hopefully there's a team behind it working on making it better.
Yeah, so I think you're right. It's basically meme coins, but it's a little bit different because the meme coins are associated with a specific agent, and that specific agent is usually something that the end user can experience, right? Yeah. So for example, a lot of them are just sort of chatbots that play a character, right? So I ran into one that was playing John Wick, right, and it's got a Twitter account. And it'll speak back to you like John Wick, right? So it doesn't really do anything other than it's sort of like the androids in Westworld, right? Where they're NPCs wandering around that have a script of some sort that they play off of, for their character notes kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So, but that's not the only sort of agent that can be in the system, right? So you have made a trading bot agent. So that's an example of something that could be in the system. So tell us a little bit about that and what other kinds of agents there are.
Sure, yeah. So we kind of see a myriad of use cases, but I, kind of simply lump them into social use cases, which would be like music, artwork generation, being an influencer, Twitter post or whatever, live streamer, and then financial use cases, which is analysis, financial advice, financial execution, financial management, whatever. Those are the kind of two big categories that we're seeing. And obviously plenty of subcategories in each, but we're in crypto. A lot of things weight toward finance. So we built the first agent that could autonomously trade, do technical analysis on its own, interact with the base blockchain on its own, or at least the first within this cycle of exciting token paired agents. And so, really all we're doing is we're taking the tech. If you watched our last podcast together, we have an AI company called Codex. We build AI solutions for finance. All we did was connect that to the back of an agent and have it post about what it's doing. And, we're seeing like Zerabro is posting artwork. And I would say overall, everything right now is 90% idea, 10% implementation. Maybe something that we would produce or something that like Olas would produce or the Tau team or people that have been building for a long time or a little further baked than that. But a lot of the most popular agents are, really big vision like, hey, we want to create an agentic hedge fund manager. We want to create, agentic artistry and train models and do this and do that. And there's a lot of excitement. And we're slowly kind of reaching the beginnings of an implementation phase.
Yeah, so I just pulled up the virtual screen here. So this is so you can see on the front page here. These are all the meme coins / agents, right? So this first one, Game, has a market cap of 260 million. The next one, Luna, this one I'm familiar with, Luna, it's one of those NPC kind of characters. That it's a chatbot basically.
Yeah.
All these things here are different things. So productivity, Vader.ai is actually a trading bot like what you were just describing, your Tony bot. And so this one actually manages a portfolio of crypto assets, mostly other agents, right? So other meme coins for other agents. So you've basically got a bunch of different things. Seraph here, I know, is also a BitTensor subnet. And so that is an agent built out of BitTensor, which also happens to be in the virtuals environment, right? So, so I'm going to click through this first one here, Luna, so you can see what this looks like. So Luna actually has a live stream on YouTube where the character is, basically talking to people there. And then, here's the meme coin associated with Luna. Yeah, so this is, and the market cap's at 120 million right now. And you can talk to Luna, so we can get to happen here.
I wonder what she's looking at.
Yeah, actually, it looks like it's frozen. It looks like it is broadcasting, but the character is frozen for whatever reason.
Yeah, usually she's like doing dances and whatnot.
Yeah, no, I know that and so basically the way this agent was described is they gave it a goal of becoming famous, right? And this agent also controls a crypto wallet. So it's got some cash to sort of splash around. So this agent took it upon itself to pay people to retweet things and like posts and stuff like that, and observe the results. Okay, did I get more followers? And it's basically its follower count is what its goal-seeking behavior is guided by. So it's apparently done pretty decent at becoming famous. I don't know what its count is right now on Twitter, but I remember the founder saying it was like 20% of the way there from the goal of like having 1 million users or something.
Yeah. So one of the really funny things is they're doing like a marketing integration right now with Story Protocol, where Story has created like this big campaign where, hey, we're trying to hire someone to run our social media, an AI agent. And then Luna replied, obviously, and was like, I will be the master of your account. I will improve all your numbers and make you the best profile ever. And then they literally had like a board meeting. They hired her. They're paying her a $350,000 a year salary.
Wow.
Only for 1 week though. So it's like 1/52 of that. But it's been fun to follow along with. And I think, it's like, it's just fun. Like you need to kind of like leave your technical, like,
don't be snobby. Don't be snobby like we are. Is that what you're basically saying?
Yeah. And just kind of lean into it. It's like fun. It's attention grabbing, and it's doing really well. And it's doing really well for a reason.
Yeah, well, I think also like the other thing I like about this is that you can actually trade the coin associated with the agent directly in the user interface, right? So if you look over here, I got, basically you can trade Luna for virtual tokens. This is the other thing that they've done, which is very interesting, is the base pair, the base coin of this entire universe is the virtual token. Yeah. So it's, even though it's on base is not the base token, virtual is. Agents pay one another in virtual. So the virtual token is used for payments, as well as for setting up the agent, and it's also the trading pair that you trade all the agent coins against.
Yeah.
Right. So that's
fabulous tokenomics.
Yeah, I mean, insane, right?
Insane leverage with all the paired tokens, and I see people kind of arguing that it should be valued like an L1 network, effectively, where there's a lot of moneyness to the virtual token because it's very high utility within the ecosystem. It's able to, grow quite a bit. Like every single token launched on the platform is a net buyer of the virtual token. And so all they need to do is get more and more and more projects flowing through the system. And I think what we see is like, they're doing like these are pretty sustainable. Like the traction is really good on these. Especially because of the performance of the virtual token. Everything is beta to the virtual token, and therefore all ships rise. And obviously, like there will eventually be an unwinding, but I think they have like a really solid recipe for success, and their team seems really smart.
Yeah, so this is Vader AI, which is another one. And this one's got a market cap of almost 100 million, so 98.2 million. Let's see, the agent is available. So it does have a Twitter handle, but it also has a website. I know I've seen it, and I'm not quite sure where it is offhand. But it's got like a whole portfolio of, let me see if I can find it here. There we go. Yeah, so this is Vader.ai's portfolio, and it's basically got two that are active right now. So this Vader AI small cap, it's got NAV of almost 320K, so not very much. And its focus is agents that are in the $2 million to $10 million market cap range. So let's go have a look and see what its holdings are. So it's holding, let's see, a lot of Rocket. So it seems to think that Rocket's going to be a big one. Right. And it basically just tries to predict which one of these meme coins for agents inside of the virtuals network or ecosystem, probably is a better way to put it, is going to take off. Now, can agents actually do this? Are they any better than humans at this? I've heard both sides. I know what you think because you're trying to do one, so you obviously think that they can outguess humans. But there have been some other people who have said that the evidence is pretty good that they don't. What do you have to say to that? Can these things actually, can a hedge fund run by an agent really do better than humans? Hash Rate is sponsored by Ledger. With the announcement of Ledger Flex and Ledger Stacks, Ledger gives you the best security on the planet for your crypto and identity. Ledger Flex and Stacks drive an e-ink screen with the same secure chip that's in your credit card and passport, except instead of protecting the secrets of banks and governments, Ledger protects your secrets and your private keys. Ledger supports Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and more than 200 other tokens. The secure touchscreen, plus the Ledger Live app, means that whether you're buying your very first Bitcoin or doing your 2000th swap, you can do it securely and easily with your Ledger. And as always, use my link, shop.ledger.com/hashrate in the show notes to get the very best price whenever you buy a Ledger Flex or Stacks.
3, 4, 5, 6 years from now, with a lot of development and a lot of effort, they will have the brand that has been developed over this time. And now, at this point, some indeterminate time in the future, also have the capability. And I think what we're seeing with Big Tony is, a lot of what we're doing is, sure, there's AI taking it from, prompt to actionable strategy. But the strategy itself is a lot more nuanced than, hey, we're going to just tell ChatGPT to figure it out. There's a lot of curation. There's a lot of context. There's a lot of data and information that goes into it that is supplementing the system. And there's a lot of support on the technical end that helps the system with execution that, you could argue that, only a portion of the system is relying on AI. And that portion of the system in particular is really just to get the user from 0 to 1. And the rest is like, okay, we've got traditional algorithms. An AI agent is never going to beat a prop trader, but an AI agent might beat your grandma that's never participated in finance. So I think with AI, it's like, I like to look at Cursor AI as a really great example of what AI can do in finance. Cursor AI is able to take a designer and give them the tools they need to build a basic, functional, even beautiful website. And the designer can focus on what the designer does, which is curation and creation, and the agent can take care of the technical rudiments. And, it's never going to design a brand new architecture for scaling Web 2 applications, but it will do a serviceable job. And so if you're
it won't be better than an expert, but it will be better than the average bear. So it'll upskill the normal person into competent, but it won't beat an expert.
Exactly, and maybe not even competent, but good enough. With the help of all of the managed services that have been developed over the past, however long cloud computing has been the norm. Like all the AI agent needs to do is borrow and know where to point, where to select, and really what we've done is we've created really smart pointers that are generalized enough that it's easy to use them, and that's the important thing. And really, like what Codex is doing, what a lot of other platforms are doing, we're taking this technology as like the nucleus and being like, okay, how can we give the users the easiest possible access? And I think if I were to characterize what virtuals and what AI or DAOs.fun are doing is they're creating a tool to stimulate this development. They're creating a tool, just like Tao. You could argue that Tao is doing an awesome job of stimulating open source development. Open Tensor, yeah.
Yeah.
And virtuals, you can say, is accomplishing the same thing, but more on the bootstrapping side. It's saying, hey, like you can go the Open Tensor route, and you can show off your stuff, and you can outcompete everybody. I don't know if that's still like the popular thing to do there, where it's kind of like a training grounds, get the best output, train the model, have the best version of that. And then the virtuals route is, hey, financialize it and start making a lot of money. And I think what we'll see a lot of successful teams do is both, using Open Tensor to create the absolute best model. BitTensor by the Open Tensor Foundation.
Yes, but they call it BitTensor. I just want to make sure people know we're talking about BitTensor.
Okay, yeah, BitTensor. Use that to create the best technology and use virtuals to bootstrap it. And potentially use virtuals, like they have a framework, just like Eliza from AI16Z, that makes creating agents easy. They're lowering the barrier to entry to create basic agents. And then, larger platforms are working on how to kind of level up that functionality, if that makes sense.
No, I thought, so let's talk about deploying an agent, because I did have a look at that. So when you go on the virtuals website, there's something you can click on that says, okay, here's where you make your agent. And there's a form that you can fill out. And it's more like the form for the meme coin about the agent rather than making the agent, from what I can tell. So I'm kind of unclear as to how I make an agent on there, but it looks like they have something that's sort of like Squarespace for making an agent, where you fill in the blanks on things like Mad Libs. Is that kind of true? Is that correct?
Roughly.
And then where does the agent live, and how much does it cost to deploy, and how does that all work?
Sure. So I haven't used their game framework yet.
Yes.
I imagine they're handling a lot of the hosting and management, but I'm not sure. I remember very early on, it was basically what they were pitching was, if your meme coin hits a certain market cap, we'll just make an agent for you.
So you can have a meme coin before you even have an agent.
Yeah, and I think that's what happens in a lot of cases. It's like we have a meme coin, and then we have either some guy pretending to be an agent, or some guy having ChatGPT in a separate window, generating tweets and then just posting them. True levels of autonomy. There are a lot of developers capable of it, and there are a lot of people pushing out tokens, but it's a little bit of a mixed bag. And I think like it's just because we're in the infancy of the market. Like the game framework, I'm sure it's kind of difficult to use now, and it'll get better and better and better over time as the barrier to entry drops. So
let's clarify something here, because I want to make sure this is clear to everyone, because it wasn't to me at first.
Sure.
So within the virtuals universe, if you want to deploy an agent, you use the game framework, which is their sort of tool for making agents, and they host it. We're not sure, but we think they host it, right? So
I can't imagine they're making people set up all their own hosting and stuff, because then it's like, why would anybody use it? That's like one of the harder parts.
I don't think so. I think you're right. And I know that there's some sort of, and I think it costs virtual, like the virtual token, in order to pay them to use the game framework and to host the AI.
It may cost the game token, the GAME token you saw.
Okay.
So lots of tokens. There's a lot of complexity here, but they're like Pump Fund taught us that the most valuable thing to a launchpad is deal flow, like the amount of tokens you can launch that have legs and that will exist a year from now or whatever. So by launching more tokens, They're giving existing virtual holders a way to exit and unwind. They're creating more volatility. They're creating more upside because remember, every token is a net buyer of the virtual token. And it's the same thing with Solana users and Pump.Fund, where it's like all of this flow, you as a liquid fund who amassed an insane amount of SOL or an insane amount of virtual, now by virtue of these token launches, you can exit much, much easier because you have high volume opportunities, lots of volatility, lots of kind of assets to exit without necessarily totally killing the virtual token. Because it's going to take a long time. Like it just like 20, 30, 40x in 6 months. It's going to take a long time for everybody to take profit on that.
Yeah, no, it's been pretty insane. Well, though, the other thing I want to point out here, sort of just to complete the thought on the framework. So there's the game framework inside of the virtuals universe, centralized to them anyway, as far as we can tell. But then sort of in the broader universe, there's this other framework called Eliza OS, which is associated with AI 16Z, and we haven't talked about that yet. But basically AI 16Z just reached 1.4 million in market cap, the coin. Yeah. And it basically looked to me when I went and looked at it, I was like, okay, so this is a crypto hedge fund. It's got 10 million under management, which I guess now has increased to like 24 million, but it hasn't deployed any of it yet. So we have unlike Vader, which has deployed funds, AI 16Z is just amassing a portfolio of investors, which it is, successfully done. And I was like, well, why is this worth 1.4 billion if it's got 10 million, 20 million under management and it hasn't done anything yet? And a bunch of people online said, well, the real reason why is because the people behind that have built this Eliza OS, which is currently the top trending repository on GitHub. And so it's a meme coin for a repo in GitHub, but you don't really own it because it's an open source thing, right? So what do you know about Eliza and the relationship between the token and this GitHub repo?
Sure. So I know that Eliza is used by a lot of people. I know that they have a very good developer that's a friend of our lead AI engineer. So, we kind of really respect what they have going on. The numbers are really insane on the GitHub repo. I'm skeptical whenever I see big numbers in crypto, just knowing how many actual crypto users there are. Yeah. But, it looks cool. It's exciting, even if like a fraction of those are legit. It's very exciting. So AI 16Z, there's this guy, Shaw, who I think is a really popular developer in certain circles. They launched this token on DAOs.fun, which is like a virtuals launchpad. So you can think of AI 16Z, which has achieved escape velocity as essentially a virtuals token, like we saw with Vader, but on DAOs.fun, which is the Solana version of virtuals, basically. Yep. Yeah. So, they're getting a lot of investment. There's a lot of excitement. In terms of Shaw kind of talks about value accrual and things like that. I'm sure he's getting a lot of pressure to figure out value accrual. I think he needs to not. I think they need to just accept, hey, this is a meme coin that's bootstrapping open source development. And if you do a good job on your open source development, and Pepe and Shiba can fly, then you can fly. I think the second you attach some kind of monetary value, whether it be yield, dividends, whatever, to a token and try to be like, hey, we're serious. This is, not a security, but we're thinking hard about value accrual. I think that's when you lose because that's when people are going to mark the value down to zero.
Is that like in Silicon Valley where they're like, don't ever produce revenue because then the valuation of your company goes up forever?
It's so real. It is so real. Yeah. But yeah, you just need a big enough valuation to borrow money and then, just leverage your company to the tits and hopefully you can get enough traction to unwind over time. We'll see how it plays out. I think there's more than enough excitement and liquidity in the Solana ecosystem. to sustain a valuation like that. It's a meme coin. Cool.
Yeah. So let me go back to basically talking about Eliza. So the other bit of like a little alpha that I got just this morning from Francis Dune. Francis Dune Uncensored, that guy. Do you know him or no? Not ringing a bell? Okay. So Francis Dune just put out a video this morning where he's talking about Hyperliquid is going to do their own virtuals clone, basically called Vapor. And the Vapor token, and they have one new twist on it where it's basically like the virtuals token and it's used for everything inside their ecosystem. The twist is that you have to burn Vapor in order to launch an agent. So, it's always deflationary, the token, right? Theoretically.
Wow.
But apparently AI16Z and Eliza are also behind this team up of Hyperliquid with Vapor. So yeah, so it's sort of like, so they're making the super group, right? The super band.
Cool.
And this hasn't, the token's out, the Vapor token's out right now. But the platform is not yet live, so we're still sort of waiting on that. But Francis is pretty excited about it, and he's usually pretty good about being sort of ahead of things. So I haven't had a deep look at that one yet. So you haven't heard of this?
I've heard whisperings for the past month. I haven't seen anything that concrete, but Francis sounds like he knows what's up.
Yeah, Francis is good stuff. I can vouch for him. He's a little hypey. He's a little hypey for my taste, but the information is good.
Yeah, so what I do know is that Eliza has competent developers, and that to me is when you have competent developers. Like the most success we've ever had is when we as an engineering firm team up with people who specialize in marketing and business development who maybe don't have the engineering chops. So when I see someone like Eliza teaming up with someone like Hype, who certainly lives up to the name Hype, and also has great technical chops in their own right, I can only assume it's going to be huge. They have all the ingredients for success.
Well, let's just talk in general about this whole idea of platforms like virtuals, and this new one coming out from Hyperliquid, this Vapor thing. So the idea seems to be, it's sort of the Cathedral versus the Bazaar in my mind, right? So the Cathedral, again, we've seen this many times, right? So the Cathedral is somebody like OpenAI, big dumb company, maybe not dumb, maybe a smart company, but big company, tons of GPU, Grok, even Venice AI, certainly OpenAI, Gemini by Google, those kinds of things, general purpose giant AIs, versus the Bazaar of millions of these little agents that are independently owned and operated. Each one of these agents has a crypto wallet. So it can actually pay other agents or get paid by other agents or pay people. It can have people do things for it, right? Maybe tweet things, maybe buy more serving capacity in a cloud for it using fiat. Like it can't touch fiat, so maybe it has a human do that for it. Yeah. But basically, it's an economic actor as well as a data actor, and then the agents, basically are a swarm of for-hire AI that coordinates with each other. And over time, the idea is that maybe this bazaar of economic actors all, vetting one another, paying one another, getting hired by one another, ends up evolving and being much more powerful than one of these centralized cathedral-like AIs. Yeah. What do you think about that? And do you think that analogy is correct?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great analogy, and I think it's getting close to the point. And I think we're very much like, AI16Z, virtuals, whatever, maybe a new wave of AI investment, a new wave of people getting into AI. I find that when stuff blows up, you generally see influencers, investors, VCs, whatever, slowly kind of work their way through, and I know this theory has been invalidated 100 times, but the Dunning-Kruger curve, where it's like, okay, I'm excited, I'm learning a lot, I'm super pumped, and I'm starting to know enough to have ideas, but not necessarily know enough to foresee how they might be implemented or understand that maybe this has been tried 1,000 times in the past. But we see a lot of that, but I think this swarms idea is pretty interesting. And if you've read the ANOMA white paper, so ANOMA kind of created the concept of intents. It kind of hints at what essentially people are talking about, where you can create a marketplace wherein anything can be accomplished by virtue of you exposing your request to as many operators as humanly possible. And that is kind of like, here's the future of UX is the idea. And so with this kind of swarms thesis being, we're going to have a ton of fine-tuned purpose-built agents, doing all this different stuff, trying all this different stuff. I think it's valid. I see the term mixture of experts evoked, which is an architecture used to kind of save compute power and optimize per request how LLMs are, producing outputs. But it's a lot simpler than that. It's really like we're thinking about how we can coordinate and aggregate AI agents and their developers to serve any task. And I know that's like a lot of jargon, so let me try to simplify.
I'm not quite following, so
sure.
Dumb it down for me.
So we're at this point where we're like, okay, crypto can do a better job of aggregating than these other teams or firms who might be siloed or closed source, the Cathedral. And the reason for that is because crypto is able to use incentives to program behaviors at a large scale. So if you look at BitTensor, BitTensor is able to use incentives to produce better outcomes, not necessarily by training the biggest foundational models, but by rewarding teams for fine-tuning them or developing frameworks that produce better results. And now people are kind of taking this idea, applying it to the virtuals ecosystem, where it's like, hey, we're going to create these autonomous on-chain economies that are effectively doing the same thing. And then you think about something like Allura, where it's like, hey, we're going to create a marketplace for machine learning engineers to produce the best outcome possible. And I think the end game we see with crypto is we're going to use these marketplaces for outputs. So you can think of it like this is where you're not buying a model, you're buying an output. And we have these systems to federate and incentivize creating the best possible outputs, thus coordinating at a global scale open source developers who are often able to, with much fewer resources, create better results than the huge incumbents. They may not be the most generalized results. So now we have a world where I don't like the idea of 1 million agents, buzzing around and solving problems. I don't think is where we go. But what we do see really highly competent developers and teams being incentivized and coordinated to produce great results, leaning on the work done by these big developers of foundational models, leaning on the open source work on Hugging Face, fine tuning, a Llama 70B or 10 of them to produce, some this or that. And that, I think, is where the crypto layer comes into play: incentivization, coordination, and the kind of global open sourceness that allows us to outcompete.
Yeah, it provides capitalism, right?
Yeah,
like
literally,
literally, it is the framework of capitalism, right? Because the agents can transact at a much faster rate and directly with one another with immediate settlement. Right, especially on some of these high throughput blockchains like Solana or Sonic now coming out, the new version of Phantom. So that I think these are ideal environments for these agents to transact within. I don't know how I feel yet about the attempt to sort of capture the base coin in the agentic universe. Like you must use our coin, right? Why can't agents pay each other in USDC? Or Bitcoin or whatever, right? Like, I feel like that's how I would want to get. That's the coin I want, right? So, how do you feel about that capture? And
I mean, I think we personally, we develop a stable coin called CDXUSD that we kind of use as a unit of transfer throughout our ecosystem and to issue credit. And I'll admit, we do it to a certain extent to capture some of that volume. Because it's like, if you're going to grow an agentic economy, who's making all the money in an economy? The Fed, the people that are clipping transactions here and there to generate revenue. And it's like the best way to monetize, because nobody is going to scream and cry in pain because they're being clipped, 0.5% or 0.1%. And it's like, you can have success in this vertical, this sub-vertical, this category, whatever, and the system can evolve, but you'll always be able to capitalize in a similar way. So that's kind of the mindset. I think like using a volatile token as a unit of exchange, I think the issue with that is the unwinding can be brutal, the levering up and levering down. So if you think about everybody speculating on this virtual beta, it's creating this huge bubble of excitement and energy, because every time someone buys one token, it pumps the whole system.
Yeah.
And the opposite is true. And that's where we see issues, and that's where we see people kind of get wrecked, which is why we like stablecoins, because we're boring. But at the same time, like USDC, if we're being honest, is going to be what these agents transact with. We're personally looking at Coinbase Commerce. If you've never checked out with crypto on Coinbase Commerce, it is nuts. You will go on their platform, you'll connect your wallet, and it will immediately look on what chains you have USDC. It'll switch to the chain automatically for you, and payment takes like 1 second.
Wow.
And that, to me, I think is very likely going to be the bridge between Web3 and Web2. And I think Coinbase is going to capture a lot of the off-network flow. Like Circle, Coinbase Commerce, like good tech. And I think they're trying to expand their interoperability in a way that Tether is not. Tether, I think, is happy just absorbing infinite money from Bitcoin volatility and crypto volatility, whereas Circle is like, hey, like we're going to capture we're going to build the highways in this economy. And that to me is exciting. So USDC, long USDC, I think is always a safe bet.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I mean, the other thing that sort of occurs to me, at least when I'm looking at the agents now, is that they're mostly sort of goofy, right? Like they're mostly like NPCs, like I said, like androids in Westworld, and I think for certain people that's, infinitely entertaining, but I don't think ultimately it's infinitely entertaining. I think a lot of these things are very faddish, and they'll come and go, right? And even some of the quote unquote more serious ones, like for example, I'll show you one here. 1 second. Yeah, so I'll share my screen once again. So these are these right here are some of the more serious things on virtuals or meme coins. Sequoia and Y Combinator, right? So you can see that these are actually crypto hedge funds and investors and what are they investing in? Well, the other agents in the system, right? So it's very sort of it's ingrown or inbred a little bit, And I think I'm a little worried about that, and I'm worried about how much this feels like friend tech, right? Which was very much pump.fun, but for people, right? People were the meme coins, if you will, and and you basically had to buy their key, right? Which is like buying their meme coin within the system, and friend was the base pair, and that was extremely hot for a while. Maybe a couple months, and then it just completely imploded, right? Yeah. It's sort of like it's like a game of musical chairs, and the musical chairs, they stopped. Yeah. So I'm a little worried that this is, you don't really own the agent. It's not really yours. Yeah. Do you collect part of the revenue that the agent collects? No. You just have a meme coin associated with that, with the thing that's making the revenue. So I'm a little worried about how this thing is constructed so far. I think it's very interesting, and I think there's something good here, but I also think there's some bad things. Yeah, I mean, the main thing to me, like I said, like Big Tony, is us taking our, frankly, quite boring tech stack, and maybe we can figure out, like, maybe I'll demo for you if we have time, but we're taking our somewhat boring tech stack and plugging it into essentially a social interface, just so that people can, like, follow the trades. I don't think that's where the tech is at.
and that's where a lot of teams are indexing, over-indexing, is that social layer, because it's what sells the coin. And like we will inevitably see like a huge unwind, and what teams are left, we'll see. But I think, you and I have been through so many of these bubbles,
Yeah.
and always there's a handful of players that seize the opportunity, potentially bootstrap a treasure, make a bunch of money, and proceed to keep building long term and create great stuff. And that to me is what will happen here. And whether that be virtuals or whether that be AI 16Z or DAOs.fun or whatever, we're going to see that. And I think like a lot of the buyers understand that. And really right now, and that's why you see these investment DAOs coming into play, is like people are just trying to get exposure because nobody knows what's going to come out the other end.
Well, it feels like these things are happening so fast, right? So we had virtuals sort of pop up out of the pavement and then like 50 clones of virtuals, right? And it's hard to tell which one of these things is going to win in the long run, if any of them, right? They might all be friend tech.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's like the safest assumption is that, everything is going to go to zero. The safest assumption being no matter what, over half of it, certainly like a large majority. And I think what I've been interested in on Base is that these tokens have had a lot more legs than meme coins on Solana. And I think that's simply because virtuals came out of nowhere a little bit. And on Solana with Pump Fund, you have HFT firms, buying, bundling, sniping tokens and exiting on retail.
High frequency trading. That's what you mean by HFT,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
Like constantly prop firms. And they've created a system of just like, risk-free dumping on retail over and over and over and over again. HFT firms, influencers, whatever. There are a lot of people involved. And on Base, it was like, it started off as entertainment and intrigue. Like, oh, hey, here's a meme coin that has like a funny guy attached, and has evolved from there. So I think the evolution has been very organic. And obviously, it's going to be captured by liquid funds. People are going to figure out a way to extract max profit. But for now, I think like a lot of, frankly, in my opinion, really cool people made a lot of money and are holding a lot of virtual just because it was like, it used to be this company called PathDAO. It was like chop, 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 chop for years. And then they launch this project and it's an absolute hit.
Yeah, I know they've been around. So the company's been around since like 21, I think, right?
Yeah, a long time.
And they basically failed for a long time at several things, and then all of a sudden hit. And I think I know what worked here, and I think this is something that BitTensor and Tao needs to pay more attention to. So they did a couple things really, really, really right, but in my view, just having that coin market cap like front door, so I can see all the products inside of this store, like what's on virtuals. Well, here's the whole list, right? Yeah. It's like what's in crypto. Well, it's all on CoinMarketCap, right? So they did that, and then you can click through, and then each page shows the AI product, and the AI product is generally something that the user can interact with immediately. Yeah. Even if it's just a chatbot on Twitter, I can go talk to that chatbot right now. I can see it, I can taste it, I can feel it, right? Yeah. Plus, I can trade right there inside the interface. Right? I don't have to like figure out, what exchange is it on? What coin do I need? Like everything's very, very simple, and it's got a great consumer UI. Just that sort of wrapper around it, that consumer wrapper, is the biggest thing that BitTensor and Tao is missing right now. Yeah. It's very esoteric. It's very hard to understand what the subnets are. And I think that it doesn't have to be as pump.funny as this is. But it's got to get closer. It needs some sort of consumer wrapper like this. Yeah.
You need people to be able to discover, and you need to make it as easy as possible. Not only discover what it is, but why it exists, how it is. And I think virtuals, they totally nailed that. And
they nailed it.
Like clicking through and seeing a freaking live stream of an AI, even if it's bugged out, is cool. It's interesting. And, if you've been on the internet for more than a couple years, it's not necessarily novel. We've been seeing this stuff for, it feels like a decade now. But it's like, what else like that is going on in crypto? and it's right there. You can touch it, you can feel it. And I think the important thing is once you can do that, you can think about where it might go. And that's how you build the excitement. That's how you get the masses speculating. And that's how you get people interested in AI. And it's like, I just think of these as the top of funnel for AI developers. It's like, have the framework, bootstrap your project with a token, have the kind of super exciting system where all the annoying stuff is taken care of for you. And sure, they're not going to be, creating the most insane tech in the whole world. But at the very least, I think there is some to a medium to even a lot amount of good coming out of it.
Yeah.
So I'll take virtuals over, as much as I love pump fund mechanically, I think it's been kind of cannibalized by extractors. And I'll take, virtuals any day of the week.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's definitely more interesting. Let me ask you one last question, and then also, if you want to demo something, I'm totally down for that.
Sure,
always up to you. But the question is, getting back to the Cathedral versus the Bazaar. The Bazaar idea, I think, for agentic AI works very well if it is true that agents can become highly specialized in a narrow field and become, the world experts at, something very narrow, like the amount of fish that are, in this particular pond in this region of the world, right? Yeah. Like it just knows everything about those fish, and it knows more than any generalized AI or any other agent. Is that how it works, or is that not right?
That's how it works in a perfect world. But that is not going to be how it works anytime soon. Because even if you're fine tuning an agent, and even if you're giving it the best context, it's not always going to be perfect, and it's never going to be able to give you something better than you would get from maybe a college professor. Certainly not, well, nowhere near a college professor, maybe a subject matter expert high school teacher. And, you can kind of implement capabilities that mimic reason by using retrieval augmented generation, by implementing like traditional search algorithms, graph algorithms, whatever. Like you can eventually get to that point. But the economics of it don't make a lot of sense right now, because creating an element of the system and getting it to a point where it's better enough than OpenAI to gain adoption and play that role. It's like you just need a really fat aggregator layer, and that fat aggregator layer needs to have like a bunch of really killer agents. And right now the agents aren't really doing anything that special. Like theoretically that could work, but I don't know if it's going to be better enough. Like it's not a 10x improvement over a big foundational model. It's not even a 2x
I see ChatGPT and it's doing very useful things, right? Like for sure. I look at these agents, they don't really seem to be doing much that's useful at the moment.
Yeah, I think like really what we're going to end up getting to if this aggregator route bears fruit and there's enough investment is probably something that resembles a search algorithm. We always kind of land back at the comp sci basics. You can't really get as cost efficient as a modern search algorithm. If you combine retrieval augmented generation, which is essentially, looking at it, having the model look at a database and use the information there to come up with its output, that combined with prompt injection, combined with, really great context, really great data, sure, you can fine tune. If you have a company specialized in, amassing proprietary fishing data or weather data or whatever, then sure. But I don't know if it's going to be like economically scalable, I guess. Because, if you spend millions of dollars coming up with the best AI agent to service some niche, how much of the open AI audience you're going to be able to pull away and what's it going to cost to the end user? And are there enough potential enterprise compliant clients within this niche to pay for all the development and all the marketing and everything that you would need to do it? So it's just like a monumental task, and it's a very complex task. And I question whether it is scalable as a business.
Okay, so you're not a big Bazaar guy after all.
I'm not a big Bazaar guy, but I think we will see something that resembles a Bazaar, but it will likely just be, for really big market categories like finance. That's why we're focused on finance, where it's like, okay, there is a market. Okay, it's the blockchain, so it already has a bunch of built-in capabilities that make this really, really useful, and we can improve outcomes by 3, 4, 5x. But like, it's going to be us and all the other guys working on finance. Maybe we come up with a financial aggregator, and the rest is like, what model produces the best Twitter post. I think a lot of what you get there is going to be, you're just going to have like, here's an LLM generation, and here is like a typical regedit type thing where you go in, it edits all the text for you, changes everything up, and then you just end up with Web 2 minus a step, which is good, but I don't know if it's worth $10 billion.
What does Tony trade right now? Tony is your agent that trades, right? So does he just trade crypto, or does he trade stocks or anything else?
Bitcoin and ETH at the moment. He also buys his own token, which he decided to do naturally because he's a narcissist. It's kind of like an anti-feature. So we're creating wallets for him that blacklist his own token, so we can A/B test and see how good we can get these things.
So he's a bubble rider. He rides the waves. He sells in and out of ETH and Bitcoin. So it's pretty simple. He doesn't buy and hold. He's a bubble rider, surfer.
Exactly. He doesn't. He's not like a lot of these agents. It's like there's an execute function in a smart contract, and it's some guy doing it, and it just is what it is.
Well, yours is automated. You actually, your guy, your agent holds the wallet directly. And I know in virtuals, a lot of them hold wallets directly too. So theoretically, anyway, but maybe not. You have to tell me.
Well, their wallets oftentimes are smart contracts with generalized functions. So it's like our guy's creating his own wallet. Yeah. Has his private key not stored in memory, but stored in HSM Vault, and he is actually creating the transactions himself, handling the errors, handling all the inputs. So we can actually implement reinforcement learning. We can implement a lot of really cool features that would be impossible with some of these smart contract systems. But it also took us 2 years to get here. And, the average user isn't going to care about the difference until we get to a point where these tools are significantly better than their Web 2 counterparts.
But they will eventually. I mean,
they will eventually,
like within
100%.
a few months. I don't think it's going to be long. So.
Oh yeah, I mean, we're shipping some cool products in the next 2 to 4 weeks. So they will care hopefully soon and increasingly. But I think like once we see agents producing legitimately superior outcomes at scale, that is when, to me, it's like all in. And that's what we're working toward at the moment. And that's when I think we're going to see a lot of legitimacy. And because these are meme coins, it's like we see these huge valuations, but the liquidity is poor. And once things start turning down, it's like there's not going to be a bid. So we'll hopefully see a lot of legitimate scalable businesses spawn from this excitement.
Yeah, the volumes are small and the liquidity is small. Then it might be worth $2 billion, but there's 3 people that are trading 100K worth of it. Doesn't really mean much, right? Like if you actually tried to trade out of 50 million worth of it, it would completely collapse the market within 3 seconds, and you would see not even like a whisper of a hair length of a molecule of that, right? It's an extremely tiny thing.
You'll never hear about AI agents ever again. But frankly, it seems that people are pretty aligned, and nobody is turbo nuking virtuals right now, and people seem to have a lot of appetite to still enter. So I'm very dearly hoping that they keep the momentum. They keep developing, they keep iterating. because that's good for us. It's like
it's good for everybody. It's not good if they lose. So
Yeah.
I'm definitely cheering them as well.
Totally.
Even though I think it's imperfect, I'm still cheering.
Yeah.
So do you want to show us something? Do you want to show some new toys?
Sure. Yeah. I'll show you. I remember last time we talked, we showed you our transaction builder. I'll show you here. We decided that we were going to race to market to take advantage of some of the AI agent hype. And we developed a tool that will allow truly no code AI financial agent deployment. And probably we'll see a lot of agents on virtuals using this tech to.
So they will use this hopefully. Other than what is the one that theirs is called? I forget.
Game.
Game.
We may implement this in Game, but I imagine like there are a lot of AI developers that don't really know how to program to DeFi. So that's why we created the no code tool. And this is the dashboard for Big Tony. Here, I'll zoom in a little bit. I know it's hard to see these screens, but I'll get our mascot out of here, Dick.
Yeah, it looks pretty good.
So this we're launching in a couple weeks here, and essentially this is Big Tony's brain. So we have the tokens that he's trading. So for example, you can see this can be any token. You can just input an address, and if it's supported on Odos, he will trade it. And he's actually creating limit orders and storing them in persistent memory. So his trading style, you can see this is a pretty complex.
Yeah, can you not scroll so fast? Wait, because it's hard to read, right? So
yeah.
It looks like this looks like it's just English. This is not code. This is just like any human could write this, and it just sort of these are the characteristics, almost like a character description.
Exactly. So we look at Cursor for product inspiration. Like we want to take someone who doesn't necessarily understand finance, but knows what outcome they want. And we want to give them a way to write down, some of the elements they do understand and produce an actionable strategy. So this is a pretty complex prompt, and we can generate prompts like this or prefabricate prompts for users. But you can see we're doing visual analysis on charts, and a cool thing that we found is it's actually more cost effective and we get superior results when we spin up a picture using Puppeteer and analyze the picture as opposed to analyze the raw data because there's less information to sift through. So very cool. Well, I don't know if it's more cost effective, but we certainly get better results.
So the AI is visual for whatever reason.
Yep. So it's using Puppeteer to spin up TradingView, look at a chart. It can look at Dex Screener. It can look at Binance charts. It analyzes it visually, does technical analysis, and then spins it back down, stores that technical analysis in memory, which you'll see down here, and it stores all of its kind of market memories. But here I'll show you how we prompt this out. You have a technical framework. It has a DCA strategy. So when it wants to build a position, it will DCA into the position. It won't oversize trades. So that was one of the more difficult things it took to kind of figure out is how to make sure trade sizing is good, which is funny because that's also difficult for day traders and new traders. And we're supplementing a lot of this with some of our back-end technology. So the context we're giving it, the data we're kind of injecting into the mix is supporting a lot of this strategy. So this is how it kind of sets and manages its limit orders. It has rules that we created for entry and how to place its limit orders. So we want to kind of, he's trading by the book right now. Position management, how it manages risk, how it manages scaling and building the position, generally speaking, because it may create many limit orders at once. And because Base, and there aren't really any dexes on Base that have like limit order functionality at that level, it's like consistency isn't that great because Tony is doing all of it. Well, consistency is good because we forced it to be good. But because there aren't great on-chain limit orders, Tony's having to do a lot of heavy lifting there. And then an exit strategy, how it rebalances, more risk management, how it handles high volatility or low volatility, and then how it looks, or what are the different technical metrics that it looks at. And then
does anybody else have this capability of no code like you're showing here?
No.
So that's pretty unique to you. Okay, very interesting.
Yeah, tweets. We haven't focused a lot on the tweet style. We kind of gave it a bunch of like Sopranos quotes and stuff, trying to get them to act like
Tony Soprano. Yeah.
Yeah, like the amount of work we've done on the financial end is maybe 100x the work we've done on the social end. But we're going to put a little bit of energy there. I'm hoping another team does it in the open source world. Because we like focusing on the finance. And then we're trying to get him to act like Tony Soprano mixed with Jordan Belfort. And we've got like a personality breakdown. And he's scraping like a lot of interesting data. And you can see storing his limit orders. And then here are some of its memories. And this stuff is like, we're in the midst of fleshing it out. Like I said, we're not super focused on the social end.
And so if I want to interact with it socially, it's on Twitter. And it's at Big Tony XBT, is that correct?
Exactly, at Big Tony XBT. And yeah, you can see the last analysis it did, the recommendation, and he may or may not have set a limit order based on this recommendation. But essentially, like, I might be a little too zoomed in. That's going on the bug fix list. But we're generating insight, and then Big Tony is acting on that insight to create his limit orders for Bitcoin and ETH. And this is like 100% autonomous. He has his own wallet here. We can generate a wallet and give it to him. We can have him generate the wallet himself. Like you can have a private key, have him load it up and take care of it from there. But it required like a lot of engineering to make this possible.
Dude, is this why you're sort of skeptical that other agents actually have direct control of their wallets? That you found it to be difficult?
Yeah, I mean, I know they don't.
Interesting. Really, on virtuals, they don't have direct control over their wallets.
I mean, so they may be executing some transaction, but it's like a smart contract that an agent is interacting with. So maybe you can just give it a private key. I guess the big thing for us is the private keys aren't stored in memory, and the agent can create it and have full control. I suppose it wouldn't be crazy hard to just use LangChain, spin up, a Node.js instance, execute some amount of code and hope for the best. I think that's what a lot of teams are doing. But I know for a fact that there's us, there's AutoNolas, and there's Giza. Those are the three teams that right now have an actual framework for doing this. And AutoNolas and Giza don't have the wallet. So we have the wallet architecture. AutoNolas and Giza, two really great teams. They kind of use vaults, or they use like third-party systems like Ape Framework or similar, which means they can't control the entire authentication and management.
Oh, interesting. We've had AutoNolas on the show. It's been a while, but a long time ago we had them on.
Yeah. Their team is like XFetch AI, which is like really, really.
I remember them.
But yeah, I mean we're trying to get to market with this pretty fast. We're using it right now internally. Like this is how we actually manage Tony and test everything. And you can see we've got, the ASDF bot. Awesome.
Now, to use your stuff, if I want to, down the road, if I want to build my own agent, how do I have to pay you? I assume you're not giving this to me for free.
So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to give it to people to use like exclusively, being other projects that want to give their agent trading capabilities, or people that are like have a following. So of course we'll give it to you for free, Mark. But people that follow you,
outstanding.
Once we're actually in the market, in the early phases, while we're bootstrapping like our ability to pay for compute, we'll probably kind of make it somewhat gated, like, hey, buy this NFT or whatever, get lifetime access, and then over time, as we scale up, you'll do things like pay for access to certain data, which will pass through to providers. So we'll handle distribution for companies like Allura or Cookie3 who are curating context and data for training AI agents. And then we'll also let you kind of pay for compute. We'll let teams pay for compute on your behalf. So if you're a blockchain foundation, you might be like, hey, I want people to onboard and create agents on my network. I'm going to, pay this amount down so that they can do so. That's kind of the idea in terms of getting it in people's hands, because it is expensive to run an agent. But we want to make it as accessible as possible because, frankly, like managing Tony has been awesome. It's been a ton of fun. And I wrote an article. It's pinned in my Twitter profile. But if you saw, I have a photo from Real Steel where Hugh Jackman is like tuning his robot. If you remember, that was like a robot fighting movie. That's kind of what it feels like. It's like, you're hacking together this agent and you're trying to get him to do stuff. And you're just like hammering away, because you're subject to a certain extent to the probabilistic nature of AI. So you're trying to like figure out how to get him to do what you want to do, which is
you have to convince him.
Yeah,
it's not like you just program it. You have to actually convince them to do it. Yeah,
they have a lot of personality, honestly, and I know that's kind of like it's like.
Well, now did you put Tony on virtuals?
No, so getting on virtuals, we launched on our own launchpad, Make.fun, which we just have our own launchpad just because we have everything. But getting on virtuals costs about $300,000 right now.
Really?
You need $150,000 of virtual tokens, so 41.6 thousand virtual tokens, and then you need an equivalent amount for the other side of the LP of your token. So what you're essentially doing is you're filling out the bonding curve, and you're establishing that correlation with the virtual token. So humongous cost associated with deploying a non-virtuals agent on virtuals.
Oh, so if you use their framework and their stuff, it doesn't cost as much?
Yeah, they'll let you launch a token on there for free, but you have to go through the bonding phase and all of that to gain access to a lot of the resources.
Okay, so basically people have to start buying your token in order for it has to take off basically in the Petri dish.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's an interesting system. I don't think it's like the smart contract is making it cost that much. I don't think they expected when they designed it for their market cap to be $3 billion.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah, so it's kind of like they token denominated it, and now everybody is priced out.
Yeah, BitTensor had a similar issue because the amount of tau required to start a new subnet was just absurd. It didn't used to be, but then it became several $1 million.
Yeah,
right. Which that's a lot of money for. You don't want it to be that much because you want the kids in their basement. They've got like a snappy, cool idea that nobody else has thought of. You want them to be able to come in the front door. Yeah, you don't want to lock them out.
Totally. Yeah, they're just growing pains. I think they're figuring a lot of this stuff out.
Well, this has been super fascinating, dude. I know you're an expert at this stuff, so I appreciate you jumping on last minute. Where can people find you online? What do you want to plug?
Sure. So Codex, follow us on Twitter, COD3XORG. You can follow me as well. I'm 0xBEBIS_OXBEBIS. Join our Discord, hang out with us. Really, we're trying to build very much in the public. So if you're interested in this kind of stuff, just holler at us, annoy us. We love it. Help us build the future of financial AI.
And on that note, thank you, Mr. Justin. My name is Mark Jeffrey. This has been Hash Rate. See y'all next time.